When we talk about serve, it's something that Annie and I have become really passionate about because when we started coming to Cornerstone, our excuse was always that we didn't have enough time. We didn't have time for life groups. We didn't have time to serve, any of that. But we ended up getting connected into a life group, and we found that it was well worth the time that it took to get to the meetings. And we found that God actually began to bless the other time that we had. Shortly after, we started to serve in youth, both of us, and it was amazing to get to know the students, but also the team that was leading with the youth. And so once again, we found that as we were taking time out of our schedule, God was blessing and multiplying the time elsewhere, just like he does with our tithes. And so we found that even though we were taking time out of our week, we'd have more. It was shortly after that I started to go into Rainbows and work with them, and it was phenomenal because I got to work not only with my son, but with all the other 5-year-olds. And that was just a great time week in and week out. And again, God continued to bless our time. And from there, we began to, again, think that there was no more time that we had. But then I started to serve in kids' church. And again, the blessing was multiplied. And we just found that God would straighten out. And what happened was he would multiply. As we would subtract the hours from our schedule, he'd multiply the time elsewhere. And every time we joined a new team or we would serve in a different place, we got connected to new people. We got to learn new things, new ways to connect to people. And not only that, especially in kids' church, I got to meet all of the kids. What's really cool now as the youth pastor is some of the kids that I taught in Rainbows and kids' church, they're moving up. And so I already know them, and I've gotten to know them over the years, and it's been so rewarding and so neat to just watch them grow and be a part of that. From the parent side, it was the people serving in the nursery that made it so Annie and I could come to church and feel confident that our kids were being taken care of. At that time, it was just Gavin. But the people were so loving and really just helped us to get tied in. And then as they moved up and as we had more kids, we just got to know more people here at Cornerstone. And the blessing knowing that I can come to service and know that my kids are well cared for and loved, and they come home and talk about their teachers has been a blessing as well. And so they love coming to church because this is their family. It's their extended family. And even though we may sometimes see it as serving or just babysitting or whatever the enemy will try and tell us, it's a blessing to be able to pour into the lives of these kids. They come home and it's so neat as a dad to watch them talk to each other and point out a lesson that they learned, whether it was this week or last month, and just to see that they're learning things. It's not just an hour where you're occupying them so parents can be in church. They're learning things, and what that does is it translates into changed lives. But then the other thing too is when Gavin was in kindergarten, he was a little evangelist on the playground, and he would tell everybody about Jesus and the things he learned. And so that's why we're so passionate about serving, is because it touches so many different facets of our life. And the reward has been so worth it. And, I just can't even imagine not being in a place where we serve. And so we are so thankful. And I would invite you and encourage you that if you say that you don't have time, step out in faith and see what God does. Because what we have found is that every time we subtract from our schedule in the physical hours, he multiplies them somewhere else. And it is so worth stepping out in faith.